You're listening to the Business Brain Food Podcast. This is episode 132.
Welcome to the podcast that gives you direct access to the world's leading business building experts. Head to MaxMyProfit.com.au to catch up on past episodes, download your free business growth tools, and access show notes for every single episode. Now here's your host, Ben Futrell.
Well, g'day and welcome back to Business Brain Food, my friends. This is a podcast that's 100% devoted to taking you and your business to the next level. And the good news is, doesn't matter whether you're brand new to this business thing, so maybe you're just scratching that entrepreneurial itch, or maybe you're like myself and you've been in business for a long time and you've got the scars and the wounds to prove it. No matter what, there's always something new we can do to take our business to the next level. And today's absolutely no different. Because today is another episode, and that's what we do on this show, is we help you take your business to the next level. Business Brain Food, episode 132. Brand new website, by the way. Go to businessbrainfood.com.au. Head over there. A brand new podcast player. All the show notes are there. Easy to go through each and every episode. Catch up on the past episodes if you've missed out on them. businessbrainfood.com.au. Thank you to Digital Canteen for putting that together for us. Done an amazing job. If you're looking for a website for yourself, digitalcanteen.com.au. The guys over there, Sydney-based web development, online marketers, amazing guys, fantastic team, and they've done our website, looked after us. They can look after you as well. Now, if you're a first-time listener to the show, welcome to the Business Brain Food Podcast. Absolute pleasure to have you along listening to this. Of course, you've got 131 episodes to catch up on, but please don't stop playing this one. This one's an amazing episode where I talk to Pauline Nguyen, who is one of the owners and co-founders of the Red Lantern, which is the one of the most awarded Vietnamese restaurants in the world. And I'll tell you a bit more about Pauline very, very shortly. If you're a long-time listener, welcome back. Thanks so much again for tuning in. Really appreciate you tuning in every single week. If you are enjoying the show, please head into the iTunes store or whatever application you're on and leave an honest review or rating. And we'd love to hear from you. And it does help me, helps the potential listeners when they come across the show to work out whether or not they should tune in as well. So leave a review and we'll read them out as we get them. Love getting your feedback. It's really important to me. All right. On the final note, before we do get stuck into the interview, I wanted to remind you that we have our private Facebook group. You've got two ways now that you can join up for that. One of those is through the businessbrainfood.com.au website. Go there. There's a link on the left-hand side to go straight into the group. Or you can just type in facebook.com/groups/businessbrainfood. Recommend you join us there. We're in there having a jolly good old talk about all things business. And if you're not in there, you're missing out. So you want to make sure you're there. All right. Today's guest, Pauline Nguyen, as I've already sort of alluded to, is one of the owners of Red Lantern, which is sort of one of the world's most awarded and most successful Vietnamese restaurants on the planet, which is pretty amazing. Pauline is also one of Australia's most successful entrepreneurs, but with a difference. She was a boat person. Now, I know you hear these rags to riches stories, but Pauline came out on a 7, 8, 9-day trip in some little fishing boat. Her dad and her family smuggled her out of Vietnam after the war. So she's an inspiration with a lot of substance. She speaks with warmth, with humour, tells her own story of what can be achieved through hard work and determination. And as I said before, having escaped Vietnam on a boat and survived a Thai refugee camp, her achievements are all the more impressive. As owner and co-founder of the Red Lantern, the most awarded Vietnamese restaurant in the world, when she talks of commitment, driving outcomes, people listen. I'm sure you're going to enjoy today's chat as she takes us through that journey. She's overcome all sorts of adverse beginnings to transform her approach to success by re-engineering her beliefs, questioning the status quo and hacking, what she calls hacking cultural norms. Self-actualization has carried her to prosperity while running applauded restaurant Red Lantern and authoring best-selling book Secrets of the Red Lantern. She has the skills to connect with you in a profound way, and she's helped awaken and focus people to change their own story for a better future. And Pauline says, this is a quote of Pauline's, if we can learn the tools of self-mastery, we can better practice the art of influence over others. I think you're going to love this interview. So without any further delay, let's get Pauline Nguyen onto the show.
Business Brain Food.
So having heard so many great things about this entrepreneur, it's an absolute pleasure to have Pauline on the Business Brain Food Podcast. Welcome to the show, Pauline.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for having me.
Hey, my absolute pleasure, and the pleasure of every single listener out there getting to listen to this inspirational story of of entrepreneurialism. Now, before we do get stuck into that, the same question I ask every single guest, I'm going to ask you, because no one escapes this question. It's actually my favourite question, and that is for you to share something quirky about yourself.
It's time for something quirky. And now, something quirky.
In my spare time, I like to practice the nunchaku and pole dance.
The nunchaku, is that nunchucks? Is that what you're talking about?
The nunchucks, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're quite a martial arts kind of woman.
Is that quirky enough for you?
That's very quirky.
I have 2 black belts.
Oh, wow. Okay. I do too, but I don't think they're the same sort of black belts. I've got a brown one as well. Oh, dear. That is quirky. Okay. And so is that something that you've done for a long time, is it? Or?
Growing up, my father made us learn martial arts, and I have a black belt in Viet Kune Do and a black belt in Taekwondo. And currently I've been learning the nunchakus in my spare time. It's quite meditative for me. But once in a while, when I do hit myself in the head or the face, the meditation feeling kind of goes away.
I can only imagine, because I would be dangerous. But I do remember seeing somebody, I can't remember who was one of the what's her name, the female actor, the chubby one. Oh, it's escaped me anyway. She was on one of these late night shows, and she was, showing everyone how good she was with the nunchuckers, and hit herself in the back of the head. Do you know? It
was Adele, I think. I think it was Adele. Yeah. I remember seeing a bit of footage.
Yeah, it could have been. Anyway, I'm not going to try nunchucks, but I take my hat off to you for giving them a go and having 2 black belts. It's amazing. But we're here to talk about your entrepreneurialism. I think it's quite a story that people will love to hear about. And maybe tell us a bit about where you are now, because you've got one of the most successful restaurants in the country. You've written books. You've done some amazing stuff. So maybe give us a bit of a round out of where's Pauline right now.
Currently, I spend a lot of my time writing, rehearsing, and delivering keynotes in Australia and around the world. Speaking in front of people is what I was put on this earth to do, to share my story, to share my wisdom and my experiences to a whole lot of people in a short period of time. That's what I do a lot of now. I'm still very involved in Red Lantern, the most awarded Vietnamese restaurant in the world. We've had the restaurant now for 15 years. I do spend a lot of time supporting my team, coaching the leaders, going in and, keeping it real. While I love the schmooze factor and connection with people, I love to do the dirty work. I love to carry the food. I love to polish cutlery, and just to remind myself where I came from and what it took to get here. I also coach and I mentor, but the sharing of knowledge and sharing of wisdom is what fulfills me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, it was, it's been a long road for you, really, when you think about it. I mean, every entrepreneur starts off on a different starting block, and every entrepreneur has their own challenges. Maybe take us way back when, because originally you're from Vietnam, and you're, just getting into Australia was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, look, my father smuggled my brother Lewis and I on a boat with my mum and about 6 other adults and 6 other children. It was just that decision that there was just no way that he could stand back and witness his family growing up in the new communist regime. So a lot of my country, men and women, escaped after the war, and we escaped on a little fishing boat. We spent 9 days out at sea, ended up in Thailand, where we spent quite a difficult year in a refugee camp there, where my brother Luke was born. Do you know my brother Luke, the guy with the television show and the cookbooks? He's quite a well-known chef, and he we came to Australia in 1978, and we literally came with nothing, no house, no job, no money, and my father suffered terribly from post-traumatic stress disorder, and I didn't really know that until I wrote my book in 2007 and really had to dig deep into my childhood and my past. And we grew up in a very violent household. There was a lot of physical, emotional, mental, spiritual abuse. My father just didn't know any better. He didn't have the tools, and his highest intention was that he just wanted the best for us. His highest intention was that he couldn't have us stay in this communist regime. And his highest intention was that he wanted us to grow up with grit and resilience and courage, which absolutely all of us do. But most importantly, he wanted to make sure that the sacrifices that he and my mother made were honored. So growing up was very, very strict. I started working when I was 7.
Wow.
My brother Lewis started working when he was 6. Luke started working when he was 3. My father had he was bitten really hard by the entrepreneurial bug. We had a restaurant, we had a video library, we had an ice cream parlor. My father was Cabramatta's very first barista, and he also operated a driving school on the side. All of these businesses he ran at the same time, and we provided the child labour.
Obviously, getting child labour must have helped be successful. But on a serious note, though, I mean, yourself and your brothers have been successful. Well, you and Luke in particular. I don't know about your other brother. What's your other brother up to?
I have 4 brothers.
Yeah.
Lewis is very, very successful in his own right. He's the most generous, kind, friendliest man I know. He lives in London. He works for Sony PlayStation. He's been with them now for almost 15 years. And my youngest brother, Leroy, is a fashion designer, cutting his teeth in the industry in Hong Kong.
Yeah, and as you mentioned before, Luke is quite well known as a celebrity chef in Australia, having the his Luke Wins Vietnam show, and I think he's got a couple of books as well. I think would you say that tough upbringing helped you and I'm talking about you and your siblings, be more entrepreneurial or have a work ethic that's helped you get to where you are now?
Oh, absolutely. My father created 4 tough working machines. That's for sure. And I often hear people say, they're entrepreneurs. And I think it was Elon Musk who answered a really poignant question. Someone asked him what it took to be an entrepreneur, and he said that you have to have a very high level of you have to have high pain tolerance, and that's absolutely what we went through growing up, and that is entrepreneurship. Being able to get knocked down but then get back up again, being able to have that grit to having that passion and that perseverance for that long-term goal, and ultimately, persistency is the new currency, Ben. Persistency is the new currency, and I honestly believe that the universe rewards the unreasonably determined.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way of putting it, to the unreasonably determined get rewarded. Nothing's handed to you these days, that's for sure. Plenty of entrepreneurs out there, not so many successful, or there's a lot successful in their own right, but really a lot of people labelling themselves using the word, but not actually, doing the action. So it's good to see you succeeding. What, tell us a bit then. So you grew up in this tough sort of family life. Your dad was hard on you. He got all of you working hard. Tell us a bit about that. Were you also schooling at the same time? Were you studying for anything? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, look, we all went to private Catholic schools. He was absolutely determined that we all got a really good education. And, growing up was tough, Ben. He would punish us when we brought home our reports, lots of canings for not getting good grades. And ultimately, I needed a better life. I needed some hope. And I packed my bags and I ran away when I was 17. And I spent many, many years hiding from my father, but determined to not become a loser. So I put myself through university. I did a Bachelor of Arts in Communications degree, but, always looking over my shoulder, paranoid that he and his friends were following me or found out where I lived. But I would send home my school reports, my university reports. I would send them home every semester and cut out my address so he wouldn't know where I lived, but so he would know there were some things I would never forget. And I that's when I ended up in hospitality. I mean, I grew up in restaurants, and I started working in some of Sydney's best restaurants to support myself, put myself through university. Graduated university and flew over to Europe and lived in London and Paris for 5 years. I ended up working in the third largest post-production company in Europe at the time, and worked myself up from there.
Yeah, great stuff. And what was it? What was the spark, or what ignited the spark in you to start your own business?
Well, the degree that I did at university, I majored in film and television, and I majored in journalism and writing. But the spark was Luke. I came back to Australia in 2000, and my brother, on his bucket list for as long as I could remember as a child, he wanted to open his own restaurant. He wanted to have his own television show. He wanted to travel the world and, be a famous chef. And it's been so wonderful being able to witness him also ticking off his bucket list and ticking off his box of successes. And so when he wanted to open a restaurant, I wanted to help him out on the business side. I was producing and production managing in film and television, so I knew all about systems and processes. And so the intention was to really help him out for a year or two. And we introduced Mark into the business. Mark is my husband. He's the third partner in Red Lantern, and Mark's background is in Mediterranean cooking and exquisite French cuisine as well. Modern Australian. He'd never held a cleave or worked a wok before until he met us. And 15 years later, look, I wanted, the intention was to only help Luke for a little while, but then the entrepreneurial bug really bit me as well. And there's just so much fulfillment from creating something, starting from scratch, and it just becoming this a brand. And a lot of people know that we're a little bit quirky. Unconventional is a word that they like to use when it comes to describing Red Lantern, and I love it that way. It's been so rewarding, and so it's more than just a restaurant. It's a movement.
Yeah, and so that title of being unconventional or a little bit different, what do you think it is that has made the success? Is it the fact that you are unique? Is that what's made Red Lantern such a success?
It's because we're not afraid. I hold events at Red Lantern. For example, there's a Startup Sunday events. We had one just this Sunday, and it was the 6 unconventional paradigms to becoming a more skillful parent. A beautiful dinner, and there's, starting up a conversation. Before that, it was how to dance with anxiety and tell fear to fuck off. and that was sold out 4 times over. We have Meet the Expert dinners, where we invite experts in all sorts of industries to come in and share a dinner and share a talk. And then, of course, there are the traditional food events such as beer and clams or sustainable seafood dinners and all the stuff that Luke does as well. I love to we held a fashion event. So, it's our business. We can do whatever we want, but it's all to move, push forward humanity. And why food is about uniting people and being the glue to connect our friends and connect the experts and pass on our knowledge and our experiences and just new stuff to our Red Lantern customers and our raving fans. Look, our database is pretty significant now, and we're always offering them something new. And so for those who think that Red Lantern is just a Vietnamese restaurant, that's exactly what we're not.
Yeah, great stuff, and great way to surmise it, because I think a lot of businesses struggle with that whole uniqueness. But I love the way you just put that. The food is the glue that brings everybody together, and I think a business that can build a community is a business that will always succeed, because people do love to hang out with each other and share their knowledge. Now, you mentioned that 15 years ago your intention was to be there for a year, but you felt like you were bitten by the entrepreneurial bug yourself. What was it? Do you feel that was like what was it that stopped you just going after a year and helping Luke just set it up and then moving on?
Ben, we, because of our upbringing, we all knew how to work hard.
Mm.
We all knew how to work hard. We just didn't know how to work hard and work smart, right? And so when we first opened the restaurant, Mark, Luke, and myself, we were working 80, 90-hour weeks, week upon week and upon week. And Luke had these dreams of entertaining his mates at the front of house, but that never happened because he was stuck in the kitchen all the time. We in the first month of operation, we won Best New Restaurant, Best New Asian Restaurant, and the wait list got longer and longer. And Mark's dream of going fly fishing and riding his Ducati on his days off never happened because we never had days off. And my dreams of having children remained a dream for so long because Mark and I were just so exhausted after work to do anything but sleep, right? And so one day, it was after a really long and difficult service, and our bodies ached. It just ached. And we sat down for our after work beer, and, it was 2 a.m. as per usual. And we just looked at each other and we said, what are we doing? What are we doing? This isn't why we went into business. We went into business to have fun and contribute and grow and leave a legacy and have a life. And that's exactly what we were not having. I guess we were tired of being tired. And I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs can know exactly what I'm talking about. And really, it was in that moment of decision that our destiny was shaped, because we vowed to one another that this can't continue. We had to do things differently. We had to continue to, we wouldn't stop working hard, but we had to work hard and work smart, and we just had to find a different way. And so we decided that creation was more important than anything, to continue creating, and we couldn't do that when we were stuck in the business, and also finding a way to just try to escape the quagmire that we're trapped ourselves in, and in order to do that, we had to find a way to just the nexus between being on the tools and leading from the front. And then we got creative, and Luke got the cooking, the travel cooking show with SBS. Mark got his gig, which was a 6-year stint with Ready Steady Cook. We wrote books, and my own book, Secrets of the Red Lantern, which is a very dark and personal memoir, which I disguised as a cookbook so people would buy it. Look, who knew? I won Debut Writer of the Year for it. It became an international bestseller. And then my publishers pushed me into the world with all these writers' festivals, and I decided that this was what I really loved doing, and I got professional coaching as a speaker. Luke became an international chef, and Mark, in his own right, huge advocate for sustainability and the ethics of what we eat. And so while Red Lantern is always the primary consideration, the primary business, we also have other businesses on the side that fulfill us. So it was really a case of this can no longer continue. And then we found smarter ways of doing it. And along the way, we found our true calling.
And that true calling has been?
With Luke spreading the Vietnamese cooking, Vietnamese culture, his travels, his motivation is to spread Vietnamese food, Vietnamese culture around the world. And he's doing that very successfully. He's a friend of mine was in China the last year, and there was this, your brother's on this big, massive billboard in China, and they have a different name for him as well because they can't pronounce the word Luke, I understand. And Mark, he speaks and he writes and pushes very passionately for sustainable eating and cooking and living, something that Red Lantern's very passionate about. And myself is speaking and mentoring and coaching, and overall just alleviating people's suffering. And a lot of the suffering is in their own minds and in their own heads and thoughts.
Yeah, well, I want to congratulate all of you for the success you've had, because I think it's amazing. 80 to 90 hours a week, working hard, and to have that, I guess that that moment of truth where you had to make a decision about what the future looked like, and you needed to make some changes because there was a lot of demands on your times outside of the Red Lantern. When you say you work smarter, tell us about some of the things that you had to do to reduce the businesses, relying on all three of you being there.
The first decision is understanding that we were control freaks. And the first decision was, I remember on that night, I had flashbacks of my parents working like dogs all those years. And it fascinated me how history has a way of repeating. And if we continued doing what we were doing, we were just reliving that again, being really stuck in the business. And the decision to how can we get our message and what we do to a bigger audience? We can't do this being stuck in the kitchen and being stuck in the restaurant. And so it was we now need to get mentors. We now need to get advisors. We now need to have coaches and get other people's points of view and start listening to different voices and start thinking bigger than ourselves. People call it content marketing. I like to call it storytelling, the art of storytelling. And we became really good at storytelling because people are always looking for stories that they can connect with and resonate to. It's part of everyone's culture, the art of storytelling, and we're all telling stories every day.
Yeah, great stuff. So you knew you were control freaks. So I guess one of the things that you mentioned, in the beginning of our chat was that you've now got a team there that are looking after things. How important or significant has it been for you to have good team members, and how has that contributed to your success?
It's so important. One thing that we don't do at Red Lantern is that we don't micromanage. Micromanaging, this is part of the not being a control freak anymore.
Yeah.
Micromanaging makes our staff very expensive. And but what we do is we employ team members who treat the place like their own. And of course, we are always there when they need us. We're looking at the reports, we're looking at the business every day, but we're not in it. I know that my managers and my floor staff can do a much better job than I can. And eventually, when entrepreneurs want their freedom, they have to become highly eliminated. And so while we are performing in the background and being influential in the background, we don't need to take the credit. The credit must go to our team members, and that gives them a lot of self-esteem, and it gives them also a great sense of empowerment. And that's what entrepreneurs ultimately want: team members who treat the place like their own.
Yeah. So how do you go about finding great people to bring into your business? Saying you've found these people that treat it like their own. I know a lot of listeners to this podcast have got their own business and would be struggling with attracting the right team members. Have you got any tips, or how is it that you go about and your partners go about recruiting the right people?
Well, I know that the hospitality industry have a huge staff turnover. It's part of the gig. My team members have been with us for a very, very long time. The key members have been with us for 10 years plus. When we need new staff, the first thing we always do is look within. We always ask our other team members if they know anyone first, because they already know the culture and they act as the first filter. So many times I've heard people say, I have so many friends who would love to work for Red Lantern, but I don't want them here because they're not the right fit. And so they act as our first filter. And some key roles which may take a little longer to find a team member for, we ask our existing team members who can step up in the meantime. And there's always someone who can step up in the meantime. And it just so happens that sometimes they love the new role and they love the responsibility so much that they end up filling that position.
Yeah,
but we always look within first.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And so you always look within, and then you typically find that works well to find the right people. Or do you have to go on to other methods if that doesn't work?
More often than not, we find the right person, and then we go through seek if we don't, or we do concurrently, and it's that the constant recruiting. So we're always on the lookout for quality human beings on the off chance that we can create a position for them or something comes up in the future. It's a very valuable resource. And when we find someone, I always get them to hang out with my team members first, because the energies need to be aligned or uplifting. And when they're all cool with this particular person's energy, then I sit with them.
Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. Now, every success story has its, bumps along the road. I'm always interested to find out from entrepreneurs, what are some of the failures that you've had and how did you deal with them and what you've learned from them? So are there times where things just weren't going right for the whole Red Lantern business and for yourself?
Ben, the food industry, the restaurant industry in Sydney is tough. I won't keep that a secret. It's tough. It's challenging. It's saturated. There's too many restaurants, and they just seem to be popping up more and more and more. And so the last downturn in which was the GFC, we decided, we just had our first child, and having children was a massive wake-up call for us. And during the GFC, we decided to change our business model and change the thinking of our team members. We changed our business model to a more sustainable one, providing mostly organic food. But it was, the GFC is not a good time to be doing these things. No, people are struggling, but our vision and our purpose was just too strong. We needed to do this. We couldn't just continue not caring. And the heavens listened to us. And while we lost a whole lot of customers who believed that so many restaurants were shutting up shop, but we had no choice but to increase our prices because of the extra cost of organic and sustainable produce. And, we stuck to our guns, and sure enough, we lost a whole lot of customers. But what happened was a lot of the customers who used to dine in the upper end restaurants, because of the economy, they too had to take a step or two down. And Red Lantern sat beautifully in the middle. And we weren't expensive and we weren't cheap, but we did offer delicious Vietnamese cuisine with a social conscience, and this made our new clientele very, very happy. So the first economic blow for us hit us hard at first, but because we believed in something bigger than ourselves, the risk and the gamble paid off. And we were very, very fortunate in that respect. Sydney dining scene at the moment is challenging. The trend now is fast dining. People want to eat fast. They want to eat cheaper. Lots of takeaways now, and so. But in our world, the obstacle is the way. It's this beautiful book by Ryan Holiday, but a philosophy that we follow very much as well. When something comes that's a bump in the road, it's okay. On the other side of this obstacle, whether we jump over it or dig under it or have to run ourselves around it, on the other side of that obstacle, from here until there, the new systems that we'll have to implement, the new people we'll have to meet, the new mindset we have to adopt, just that sense of innovation, taking the traditional ways we've always done things and shaking it all around and being better than before and improving. So it forces us to think differently in order to stay in the game. And there's a lot to be said for still staying in the game long after everyone else has given up. And so it's perversely exciting while challenging at the same time. But the obstacle is the way, because the universe will only hand to us that which it thinks that we can handle. And so it's a a case of, come on, bring it on, bring it on.
It's a bit like that movie Forrest Gump where the captain of the ship, I can't remember his name now, but he's at the top of the mast on the ship in the weather saying, you can't keep me down or something. It's a bit like that. But you mentioned, though, I mean, we've talked a bit about tenacity, about persistence, about not giving up, about sticking with it, about having that drive and determination. But are there times when you probably should have given up? I mean, how long do you stick at something before you give up on something?
I think with everyone, you just know. Well, for myself, I believe that we will just know. We will wake up one day and we'll say, let's do something else now. We're not there yet. I can't answer that question for everyone else. I think everyone has their own level of grit and resilience. And so for us, maybe it'll be next year. Maybe we'll want to go live in Africa. I think intuitively we all know, right? We all, and it won't come from a place of desperation or giving up. It will come from a place of time to do something else now, time to do something new.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also interested to know too. Do you feel that there are certain skill sets? Because a lot of people are out there giving it a go and they're persisting and they're trying different ideas, but they're not succeeding. Would you say there are a set of skills required to be an entrepreneur? And if so, what are those skills? What do you think someone needs to possess?
I think definitely understanding what your strengths are. So everyone starts off. It's Tony Robbins teaches it in Business Mastery, and in every business there are three key roles. There's the artist, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And in every business, you have to have three. And so most businesses start off with the artist, right? So the person who's the seamstress or the designer or the chef or the baker, there's the art that they want to make into a business. And most artists are not good entrepreneurs. They can't let it go. And in order for a business to grow and I guess also to alleviate your pain and your suffering, you can't wear all three hats. You have to find who the manager is and who the entrepreneur is. So Mark, Luke, and myself worked this out after a little while. Mark and Luke, definitely the artists. And we can all manage with our eyes closed. We've done it before. It's just not what fuels us. It's not what we're inspired by. Sure, we can do it. We're just not good at it. And so we get managers in who can do a much better job than we can. And for myself, I'm definitely the entrepreneur. Don't bog me down with the details, give me the vision, and I'll make it happen times 10. I think that's a really important part to understand that one person can't do everything, and you need those roles to be filled. And then, of course, there's the decision of, do you want to be a dabbler or do you want to be a master? And a dabbler has a bit of a play, not really understanding that when there's frustration, when there's overwhelm, when there's a little bit of anger, that's normal. That's our body's way of saying, hey, Pauline, you're about to learn something new. Keep at it. Because sure enough, on the other side of this obstacle will be your pot of gold. And so the master understands that. The master understands that there's always a little bit of discomfort, or a lot of discomfort, if you like. But that comes with mastery. And on that point, again, we're talking about tenacity, resilience, grit, and but definitely courage. What is courage? Courage is simply taking action. Courage is taking action. Those who do not take action are the most confused. So just act and you won't be confused, but that is courage. And onto that point then of course, first at the top of the mountain for me is emotional mastery. Your ability to be able to have so much practice in your life that you can show up in front of your team members, in front of your employers, in front of your suppliers, in front of your customers. How do you want to show up in the face of yourself, your family, but and to not have those default emotions of anger and frustration, and to always have this beautiful sense of emotional mastery, so that you can choose the emotions you want to run to, rather than having the default emotions control you, because it's in that state of emotional mastery where we can tap into intuition and inspiration and innovation and creation and imagination, all those things that lead to problem-solving skills. What is a leader? What does an entrepreneur do? What does a business person do? It's our job to make decisions and to solve problems. And the more emotional clarity and the more mental clarity we have, the more easily we can solve problems.
Yeah, great stuff. What a great answer. I think one of the things that, I love asking this question, because I know for a lot of people they say I wouldn't change anything, but I'm interested to hear your point of view. If I could take you back in time, knowing what you know now, to 15 years ago, where you started to help Luke set up this restaurant, the Red Lantern, to where you are now, is there anything that you would do differently? And if so, what would it be?
That's an easy question for me to answer, Ben. What I would do differently is to go about my day, go about my relationships, go about my business with more joy, with more peacefulness, with more forgiveness, with more gratitude. I didn't know how beautiful those states would be. I didn't know that when I first started. When I first started, it was, warrior mode. As in, not only I am worried, but I am a warrior.
Yeah.
And when you're in fight mode, because we had something to build, we had something to defend, we were tired all the time. Is he taking the piss? Are we being taken advantage of? When's it going to get better? And we forgot to enjoy the ride and not take ourselves so seriously.
Yeah.
And that comes with a huge emotional cost. A lot of emotions were wasted. And so what I would definitely do differently is to have more fun, to be more joyful, and more peaceful, and forgive people faster, and have more gratitude on a daily basis.
Yeah, interesting you say to enjoy the journey, because I think a lot of people don't enjoy the journey, and I think, I can relate to that warrior mode, because I've been in business myself for 25 years, and I've felt there are times where I've had to be in warrior mode myself, and it's not a great place to be, is it? So
it's tiring.
It's very, very, very tiring, isn't it?
Yes.
So having spoken then about the fact that it is about the journey, what's your favourite aspect of being an entrepreneur? Have you got a favourite aspect or something that you love most about it?
Constantly being in creation mode. I think when we as human beings are continually creating, then the universe has our backs, because the universe, Mother Earth, Mother Nature, they're just interested in creating, right? So the word creation for me means creating new relationships, creating more trust between people, creating more customers, creating new products, and constantly in that high vibration of creation. I think creating is very, very important. And so when a lot of the time when we fall in love with our product, and we're in maintenance mode of keeping this product, we stop ourselves from creating more valuable friendships, creating new products. And that is where my joy, and that is where I have observed a lot of entrepreneurs' joy. They shine, right? They've got an idea. They need to make it happen, and thoughts become things. That is so fulfilling for myself, and also to be imparting knowledge. There's no point in us hoarding the knowledge that we have, of all the people we learn from, and all the insights that we have. When we hoard that knowledge and we don't share it, then it's a huge injustice, not only for ourselves but for everyone else. I think it's our responsibility to share.
Yeah, great stuff. I mean, you've spoken a bit about creating and generating ideas. Have you got a time that you set aside to do that? Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs struggle, or business owners of SMEs. You spoke about working 80, 90 hours a week. It must have been difficult to find the time to sit down and just come up with new ideas. Do you have a way of doing that now? Do you take a day a month or a quarter, or do you go away every quarter with your partners? How do you go about coming up with these new ideas?
Well, I lay in bed from 4:30 to 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and that's when my ideas come. It's that time. I get up at 4:30, and I meditate, or I pray, and it's that time where I open up to new thoughts, new ideas. And I'm not a good small talker. I'm not good at it. And so my close inner circle of friends, when we get together, we talk about ideas, and we talk about new learnings, and share knowledge, and we inspire one another. So it's in those two instances where we start to create.
Yeah, great stuff. Absolutely fantastic. I know, mindful, we're just running out of time. I've got a couple more questions for you. In fact, I might wrap it up on this question, then you can tell us a bit how we can find out more. I'm interested to know from you, for the business owners that are listening, if you have 4 or 5 key elements for running a successful business, what would they be that you'd advise people to make sure they're like the non-negotiables?
The non-negotiables are: look after your health. And I think when I hear people say, I don't have time, you will have more time if you look after your health. Meditate, work on your mind and your spirit, eat well, exercise. You don't have to kill yourself, but exercise. Exercise could mean getting a bit of forest medicine, walking out in nature every day, 15 minutes alone, 15 minutes in nature every day will reduce your risk of cancer by 50%. Just to get out there and give some time to yourself, whether it be meditation or exercise, that's a number 1 non-negotiable. Number 2 is to continually learn. I'm sure that you've heard it as well. I don't have time to do that course. I don't have time to read that book. I don't have time. And the answer I always give is, do you want that to be your story for the rest of your life? How long are you going to tell yourself that story for? And learning is learning by reading, or by talking, or by going to do courses, and learning from other teachers and gurus. Thirdly, as well, is I'm very big on this, is peer group. I have a very big intolerance of gossip and chatter and talk that doesn't add value. And so I'm very picky with who my peer group are. I think that we have to be a lot more intolerant of people who don't add value to our lives in that respect. So health, learning, peer group. Number 4, just to be present, especially with the entrepreneurs like myself who have partners, who have children, who have friends, and being present, really hugging your child, really listening to your child. I'm guilty of being distracted by my phone sometimes when I just have to finish that email. But these are the gems in life, to be really present and listen to the ones you love. And especially when we're so busy, we get into this habit of being the worst of ourselves in front of the people we love the most. Instead of being the best version of ourselves in front of the people we love the most. That's an important part, and it just takes slowing down, really. And 5, taking time to create. Always be creating, and make a big intention of it. Creating new products, creating new relationships, creating new friendships. And I know that I mentioned a little bit of this in the first part with the health part, but meditation is so important. And meditation no longer sits in the realm of mysticism or woo-woo-ness. It sits in the realm of brain science and emotional science. And as an entrepreneur, we have to have spiritual, emotional, mental fortitude, and meditation just does so much for us.
Yeah, love it. It's no longer woo-woo to meditate. We'll quote Pauline on that one. Well, Pauline, I can't thank you enough, not just for sharing your story, but for having the resilience to end up where you have ended up so we can hear this story, because it's amazing. It is an amazing journey you've been on, yourself and your brothers included, and I really congratulate you on where you've got to, and I can't wait to see what the future brings for yourself, for Red Lantern, and for your family. It's just amazing.
Thank you, Ben, and congratulations to you too for your success.
Thank you so much. Now, how do people find out more if they want to find out more about what you're up to, or even Red Lantern?
Okay, so Red Lantern, we have a beautiful, beautiful restaurant in Darlinghurst, private dining room at the back. We do weddings, we do functions, and of course, all the other events that we hold. redlantern.com.au. With my speaking career, you can look on my website, paulinenguyen.com.au. And a lot of what we mentioned today regarding personal development, personal disruption, mindset. I love to biohack as well. I've just created a different platform called Commotion.one, and there's a lot of interesting stuff on that website as well. So those three things will do for today.
Fantastic. Now, we'll make sure all those links are in the show notes for anybody who missed those. You can go to businessbrainfood.com.au and you'll be able to grab all of the links on the episode show notes and be able to click straight through to the websites. So that was redlantern.com.au. Pauline Nguyen, which is actually spelled Nguyen. I'll make sure that's in the show notes as well, because people will be typing in WIN, Pauline, somewhere. But it's just that's the Vietnamese pronunciation, isn't it? So there you go.
Yes.
All right, well, there's only one thing left to do, and that is the 60-second scramble. Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
All right, let's start the clock. Who is your mentor?
My very first mentor is a gentleman called Jonah Nader.
Jonah Nader, great stuff. Your favourite movie?
Oh, I love Benjamin Button.
Benjamin Button. Awesome. Do you have a hidden talent?
I'm very, very flexible.
And in what way? Not in attitude, but I'm thinking muscular, are you?
But both.
Oh, very good. Good answer. What's your biggest addiction?
Learning.
That's a good addiction to have, isn't it? I'll tell you what. If you could be a superhero, who would you be and why?
That's a no-brainer. It would be Wonder Woman, because she's hot.
Nice. Number one tip for being more efficient?
Meditate more.
What frightens you the most?
Anything happening to my children.
Very good. Well, once again, thank you so much for coming on the Business Brain Food podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. All the best. Can't wait to see your success in the future. Thank you, Ben. Have a beautiful day to you too.
Learn more to earn more.
Well, if you didn't get a lot out of that interview, then I don't know what interview will excite you. I mean, what an amazing, amazing woman had gone through so many points of adversity in her life, but had overcome them all to be so successful. What an inspiration. Thanks again, Pauline, for coming onto the Business Brain Food podcast. I wanted to remind you, if you wanted to go and check out her websites, redlantern.com.au, commotion.one, which is commotion.one, as in the number one, which I know is a unusual domain name, but that's where Pauline assures me you should be going to check out her brand new project, commotion.one. Or, of course, you can go to her website, which is paulinenguyen.com, which is Pauline, Nguyen. So remember, it's the Vietnamese spelling Nguyen, although it's pronounced Nguyen. So paulinenguyen.com.au, or just Google Pauline Nguyen, you'll find her. Definitely find her websites and all her books and all the goodies online to be able to make sure you follow Pauline. Once again, Pauline, thanks for coming onto the show. Absolute inspiration. And I hope you're enjoying this series of interviews where I've been getting the odd entrepreneur on and I'm calling it diving deep with the entrepreneurs. And we're getting in behind their, in their heads to find out what it is that makes them tick, how they overcome these obstacles in life, because everyone gets these obstacles and it's just so inspirational to hear their stories of success. So, once again, Pauline, thanks for coming on the Business Business Brain Food podcast. All right, one last reminder for you. If you haven't already, jump onto Facebook. Go to facebook.com/groups/businessbrainfood or go to businessbrainfood.com.au. Click on the link on the left of the website and come and join the private group. It's a closed group, so you will have to make an application to join. But we're accepting pretty much anybody who applies because the only way you learn about it is by listening to this. So come along, join the group. We're having a jolly good old discussion there about all things business, and you, my friend, are missing out. All right, only one thing left to do, and that's to sign off and say sayonara. And if you're looking for some great Vietnamese food in Sydney, the Red Lantern's the place to go. Pauline tells me it's hard to get in, but you now know who the owner is. Ask for Pauline and tell her Ben sent you.
You can fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can live all you ever wanted.
The Business Brain Food podcast is brought to you by MaxMyProfit.com.au.